Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or hello if you're new. Hopefully if you clicked on today's video, you are either planning on starting your YouTube channel or you already started and you are trying to grow it. Whichever one, I am sure there is something you can learn in today's video. Now before we get started, obviously I am not a YouTube expert. I do not have hundreds of thousands of followers, although I am super grateful for the following that I do have currently. And I hope that I don't sound conceited or full of myself in any way when I say this, but I have grown relatively quick here on the YouTube platform. And in my opinion, that is because I regularly and consistently look at the algorithm and my analytics and see how to optimize my channel. So hopefully in today's video, I can teach you how to optimize your own channel and help you grow your following as well. Make sure you stay until the very end of today's video because I always save my favorite tip for last. And with all that being said, let's get into it. So these tips aren't in any particular order, but I did try to keep them in a little bit of like a chronological order of starting your channel all the way down to posting your video and getting traffic to that video. So I hope that kind of makes sense. But the first tip is using the entire YouTube platform. Now, obviously, if you are a creator, you are already using the platform to some extent, but my first tip is to use all of the features YouTube gives you. So if you think about what YouTube wants from you as a creator, what they're gonna want is for you to bring users to use all of the features that the platform gives. So not only posting videos, but using the community tab if you have 1,000 subscribers, going live, using their YouTube shorts, things like that. Using the entire platform is going to help YouTube recognize you as a channel. But more importantly than that, using the platform in the extent of watching other YouTubers, specifically successful YouTubers. If you're watching people consistently, you will start to learn that people have filming styles, they have thumbnail styles, they have speaking styles and things like that you can kind of pick up on. Now, I'm not saying to go out and copy these people, but the more that you are experiencing other people's channels, the more you can kind of pick and choose what you enjoy, what you don't necessarily enjoy, and then how to incorporate that into your channel. And especially if you're watching people who are already successful, it's a really good learning opportunity to just experience what their channel is like. And then that way it kind of motivates you when you are filming or editing your videos to kind of incorporate those things. Now, again, I'm not saying to copy. I'm just saying to get the experience and see what other people are doing to see if you would want to do the same thing. Now, before we can move on to filming and editing tips, I wanted to talk about planning. Now, the most important tip anyone has ever told me on my YouTube channel is to create a script for myself for every video. So you might have seen my laptop sitting right here, and literally what's on the screen is my script. Now, when I first heard this tip, I had mixed feelings about it because I thought if I typed out what I wanted to say, maybe it would sound less genuine. But after trying it a couple times, I realized that's just not the case. So what I do is before I even hit the record button, I pull up my laptop and just do a blank Word document, and I just type out all of my tips and tricks that I want to share. And then I go back and just kind of make sure that everything flows properly. Now, what this is doing is making sure that I don't miss any tips, that everything comes out and flows properly. And in general, I feel like I look more prepared. Now, I'm not reading it word for word. It's not like I typed out every single word I'm gonna say. Usually I just do like bulletin points, but now that I'm kind of using this content to make blog posts as well, I do type it out a little bit more. But definitely when I started, I just did like tips and tricks and then a couple bulletin points underneath it. So that way I could just stay on track, but also then it helps me communicate it to you better. So that way I'm not stumbling over my words or going backwards. Like, I hope that it flows a little bit better, and then therefore you are getting the content that you are looking for and that you deserve out of my channel. Okay, so now moving on to filming, my first tip is to film in small chunks rather than trying to get huge chunks or even your whole entire video in one cut. So when I first started, I literally thought that you just turned on your camera and just started talking and you filmed the entire video and then you uploaded it. And that's just not the case. That is extremely hard to do. So what I recommend is filming in small chunks. So just like I said, I do my script. I usually talk and do a couple of sentences or a point or a paragraph, and then I stop, I cut the video, and I start again. So that way, not only am I trying to film the entire video in one sitting, but also it gives me a second to kind of, okay, that point is over, what's next? And also, it's just gonna be a lot more enjoyable for you to break down your video and not feel the pressure of having to say everything correctly in the very first film. And then that way, if you do mess up or if you stumble over your words or accidentally kick your tripod like I do all all the time. That way you don't have to re-record the entire thing. You can literally just start over from the last chunk you recorded. So I hope that kind of made sense. If it didn't come out clearly or if you have more questions, definitely drop them in the comments down below. I'm here to help and I respond to all of my comments. All right, so my next tip in filming is to make it fun to watch. So I like to add things to the screen like this, or if I'm talking about something that I can add a quick screenshot, I will add it here, or things like that, and just add little pop-ups. And usually when I do it, I add a little sound as well. I film in iMovie, so I use the cork pop sound in all of my little additives to the screen. But also in iMovie, you can change the kind of cut of the video. So I can have the video like slowly zoom in on my face, or I could even have it to where when I say something kind of silly or dumb, like I often do, I can have it kind of like cut forward to my face. And then that way it just kind of makes things a little bit more interesting to watch, but you can also change up the angle. Now I am filming directly in front of me, but I could of course change it to where I'm looking at you like this, and it kind of changes the background of the video, and things like that just make it a lot more fun. Especially when I'm doing my clean with me videos, I try to mix up the angles and just kind of give people a little bit more of an entertaining video to watch. And the way that I think about it is just like in TV shows or movies, they're constantly changing up their angle to show different sides of the face or different screenshots of different things, and it just kind of makes it more enjoyable to watch. So definitely when you can, if you can, mix it up a little bit and make it a little bit more entertaining. If you would like more tips and tricks on how specifically I edit my videos, I would love to make that video for you. So please just let me know in the comments or like this video letting me know, and I will definitely make that video for you in the future. Okay, so now you have your video planned out, filmed, and edited. It's ready to be uploaded. So let's talk about how to optimize your video in the algorithm, specifically when uploading your video. Now, I am not one of those diehard believers that having an uploading schedule optimizes your video in the platform, but I do believe that having an uploading schedule is still important. First of all, it's important for you because you are going to keep in the consistent habit of uploading your schedule, having a schedule, and things like that. It's going to keep you on track, but it's also going to keep you accountable. Now, the other reason why I think it's important is for your audience. They're going to expect to see you every time that you upload on your uploading schedule. So for me, I upload every Monday at 9 a.m. and I try to upload every single Thursday at 9 a.m. So for me, the way that I personally think about it is my friends that are here subscribed to my YouTube channel are expecting to see me every Monday at 9 a.m. It's almost like a meeting or a little party, or as if we are going out to breakfast together or something like that. I am constantly a part of their weekly routine. And that is what I really think about when I am thinking about the importance of an uploading schedule. It is showing up and providing content for you, my subscribers. That is the most important thing to me, in my opinion, of having an uploading schedule. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is thumbnails. Now, way too often in my experience in the beginning, I was spending all this time on filming and editing my videos and then just slapping my thumbnail together in 10 minutes or less. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with this, especially if you are on a time crunch, but I think if you can spend more time on your thumbnails, you really should. Now, the most important, in my opinion, part of the algorithm is your click-through rate. So this is how many times your video is shown to somebody and that they ultimately click on your video. And the reason this is important is because it is showing YouTube that people are interested in what your video is and what you have to say. So when creating your thumbnail, I have a couple of tips. The first one is to actually spend a lot of time putting your thumbnail together and planning it out. I usually have like a full-on photo shoot when I am doing my thumbnails, either before or after I record, and sometimes it feels a little bit silly, but these pictures are specifically for my thumbnail, which is something that I take really seriously. The next thing is having a common theme across all of your thumbnails collectively. I try to make all of my thumbnails look pretty similar as far as a pattern goes and as far as the aesthetic of the thumbnail, and I think this is important because people will start to recognize your thumbnails as your channel, which is ultimately going to help your channel grow and help people recognize you as a creator. The next thing that I wanted to share with you is something that somebody told me when I first started out, and that is that warmer tones in your thumbnails are going to create a more energetic vibe, where cooler tones are going to bring a more calm vibe. So whatever you want your audience to feel when they see your thumbnail and ultimately your video is the colors that you should put in your thumbnail. Now, I'm not saying that if your color scheme is black and white and pink like mine, that you should change your thumbnail to being blue and gray tones just because your video is calm, but it is definitely something to keep in mind when you are picking your color scheme in general. Okay, so now the thumbnail is out of the way, I wanted to talk about the title and the description box. So with the title, you are allowed 100 characters, and I strongly suggest using all 100. So all 100 characters gives you ultimately the opportunity to create more phrases in your title and ultimately lead for a higher search result and a higher audience. I hope that is making sense. But basically what I mean by this is by using different phrases and sayings to ultimately hopefully have people search those terms and end up on your video. So when I post a video, say I did a Cricut tutorial, I might have the first part say Cricut tutorial wood round sign. But then I'll put a little line and then do another phrase and do Cricut tutorial for beginners and things like that. So different phrases in the title. So ultimately when people are searching, they can find your video. So you are allowed 100 characters, and I strongly recommend using all 100. Now, I have a tip as far as using your title and taking advantage of all those 100 characters. And the first one is using the incognito mode on your YouTube app. So if you go into your settings, you can turn on what is called incognito. I'll have a little tutorial here, but basically what that is doing is it is removing your things like search history and your history on liking videos and watching videos, and it is coming from a completely unbiased view. And that way you can kind of start from scratch. So what I recommend is if you are doing a video on a Cricut tutorial, turning on your incognito mode and go into the search box and just start typing Cricut and see what comes up. Now, usually it'll start to kind of suggest different video titles to you, and that is what you should be using in your title because that is what people are most searching for. So YouTube is taking absolutely no previous watch history or anything like that, and it is just taking that word Cricut and trying to suggest different titles to you as if you have never been on the YouTube app before. So it is literally just relying on all of its users and what the users are searching for, which is going to be really important for you in optimizing your video. Now, this next tip isn't really a tip as much as it is an app, but there is an app you could download on your phone called TubeBuddy, and I only use this app for one of the features, which is the Tag Explorer. So if you do not have the purchased option for the app, which I do not, you only are allowed to search, I think, like 10 in a 24-hour time span. So right before I am uploading my video, I will start to research certain titles to see how well they do. So it gives you things like how many other videos are out there as far as a competition, but then also how many times those terms have been searched. And it kind of gives you a sort of score on how well that tag does. So if I were to search Cricut tutorial for beginners, it will tell me how many times that has been searched, what the competition is like, and then the ultimate score, but then also it'll start to recommend other titles for me as well. So what I usually do is I explore several different tags and try to find the ones with the highest score, or at least the lowest competition with the highest search rate. So that way you kind of get a feel of what your competition is like, if people are actually looking at those terms, and then it'll give you an overall score, which I think is really cool and a really great way to optimize your title. Okay, so now kind of along the same lines, I want to talk about the description box. So in the description box, you are allowed, I think, 4,000 or 5,000 characters. Now, it is extremely hard to use all of those characters, but I really recommend using as much as you can and putting all sorts of information in your description box. Now, the first thing that I want to say is that instead of putting all of the information in one big paragraph, I really recommend breaking it up into small bite-sized chunks that are easier to read and a little bit more visually stimulating and aesthetic, because sometimes I see videos that have just a huge paragraph in their description box and it's just kind of overwhelming and makes me not really want to read any of it. But if you break it up into small chunks or even small paragraphs, it's a little bit easier to read, but also people can skip over the points that they're not so much interested in and find the information that they actually do want. So there's a couple things that I recommend putting in your description box that I wanted to discuss, and the first thing is links to the things that you mention. It surprised me to find that not everybody does this, but especially when I'm doing tips and tricks like this or shopping hauls or things like that, I try to link everything in the description box. Now, not only is this helpful for my affiliate links, especially when I'm talking about Amazon products because I am an Amazon associate, but also it's just helpful for your audience. If I'm talking about Canva and I'm talking about how much I love using Canva for my thumbnails, I want to leave that link to Canva in the description box so it's really easy for my audience to hear about my points and listen to what I have to say and then go try it out for themselves. It's not so much about making money as it is being convenient and helpful to your audience. The next thing that I really recommend is putting your social handles in your description box. I always add the handles and the links to my TikTok account and my Instagram account. Now, not only am I, of course, trying to grow those platforms as well, but it also gives my audience another way to see me and chat with me and view my content. So that way, hopefully, if you're watching my content and you absolutely love what I have to say or you like my personality, you can go find me on Instagram and we can connect on there too. Okay, so now you have planned out your video, you filmed and edited, you have a really great thumbnail, and you optimized your video in the title, the description, and the hashtags. So now we just need to get traffic to your video. Now, of course, ultimately you will gain organic traffic, which is super valuable and should never be taken for granted. But there are also other ways that you can boost your video in the algorithm right away, right off the bat. The first thing that I recommend is watching, liking, and sharing your own video. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but you as the creator, you can watch your own video, and not only does that count towards watch time hours, but it counts towards click-through rate, watch time, and ultimately will boost your video in the algorithm right away. Now, I also recommend liking your video because that is also going to boost your video, but also if you hit that little share button and you click copy link, what it's doing is it's telling YouTube that one user wants to share this video with other people that might ultimately bring other people onto the platform, which YouTube is going to give you a big thumbs up for and ultimately push your video out to more people. Now, obviously, just one person doing this isn't going to be a huge make it or break it, but anything counts when you're starting out, and I never think that you should take that for granted. Anything you can do to optimize your video is going to help you, especially when you are just starting out. Okay, so my last tip on getting traffic to your video is my favorite tip ever, and I'm super excited to share it with you, but I actually do have one more tip after that. But this one is using Pinterest to get traffic to your videos. So every single time that I post a video on YouTube, I create 2 pins for Pinterest. I do one that is just the thumbnail, a little bit of the description box, and then the hashtags. But then I do a second one where I create an image on Canva that is the exact diameters that Pinterest favors as far as an image goes. And I create my own image specifically for Pinterest. And then I try to mix up what I put in the description and what I put for the hashtags. So that way, every time I post a video, there are 2 opportunities on Pinterest for people to find my videos and lead them to my video ultimately. So I wanted to quickly show you my analytics. So when you go into the YouTube Creator Studio, you can find where your external resources are leading to your video and where those are coming from. So these are people who are finding your videos not on YouTube, but are ultimately coming to YouTube to watch your video. And if you click here on the external resources, you can see that my number 1 external resource is Pinterest.com. I get the majority of my external resources from Pinterest. So my last tip before I leave you is knowing your analytics. So the more you grow, the more data you have in your analytics, and the more you can use that to your advantage. So once you have a certain amount of data, the first thing that you should be using is YouTube tells you when is the optimal time for you to post your videos. So especially as you are creating your uploading schedule, you should be looking at when your audience is primarily on YouTube. So this is super easy to find in your analytics. I'll have a clip here where you can see how I find mine, and that way you can kind of see my analytics. All right, you guys, that is it for me. I really hope that you enjoyed. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a comment down below if you have any questions or if you have any tips of your own. I would love to know. With all that being said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next time.